Good evening, South Africa. My name is Celani and welcome to the Beyond the Borders podcast. And sitting right next to me is my guest, the ever so gorgeous Unami Mashal. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Celani. I'm good, thanks. And you?
Right. Today we'll be discussing the movie titled Dirty Pretty Things by Stephen Frears. It was released in 2002. How much do you know about the movie?
I know quite a lot. I know it's a British social thriller.
Yeah.
And it was directed by Stephen Frears. Yes.
So I really want us to delve deep into the movie. I think the major starting point would obviously be the background of the movie, where we come across the actors or the characters, Okwe as well as Sene, who are the two central figures of what this movie is all about. But in summary, in my opinion, rather, the movie I'd say is about immigrants who move from one place to another, and the other, or the place that they move to, is London, which is the main setting of the movie, which is where everything kind of also takes place. But most importantly, the movie serves as a social commentary on the experiences that immigrants go through once they cross over to the other side, because there are many reasons as to why people move from one place to another. Some of them moved for better opportunities due to maybe their country dealing or battling with inequality. Some moved because of wars, some moved because of poverty. So there's a number of reasons as to why these people might move to these places. But specifically, we come across Okwe, who moves to London from Nigeria. He comes from Nigeria, moves to London, and he moves to London because he was running away from the fact that he might be incarcerated after he had been accused of the murder of his wife. So he just then decided to run away and go to London to find a better life for himself, which is kind of very ironic, because I think also for me, once you run away from accusations, you are likely to be guilty, in my opinion. And then your Sene, who is of Turkish descent, she is Turkish, she moves to London as well. But the one thing that all these characters have in common, or most of these characters have in common, is that they do not have the right documentation. But what can you tell me about the title of the book, of the movie, and what is its significance?
So the title of the movie is Dirty Pretty Things, and when we just dissect the title, we look at it more as a metaphor, right? We look at first dirty. When we look at the dirty, we look at more of the dirty things that happen in London as a setting, right? We have immigrants that are used as commodity to perform duties or be part of an organ trafficking service, we would say, because now their organs or their bodies are commodified in exchange for passports, your money, anything that actually helps them live or sustain themselves in this specific place. So that's where the whole dirty comes in. And then the pretty comes in with, we look at the setting. The hotel is a very pretty place, and when I think about the metaphor of pretty, I think of who's the Senor Juan, when he said to Okwe, our guests come to our hotel and make it dirty, and then we clean it up, we make it pretty. And that's where the facade of the pretty, and behind closed doors, the dirty things happen, the organ trafficking, the prostitution. So the hotel itself plays as a playground of globalization, borders, the body. So itself, it plays as a playground. And the things we look at the immigrants are the things they looked at as, they are seen as things. They are commodified. They're used in the economy, the service economy. They perform so many duties that require them to be objectified or commodified.
So, in light with the title, Dirty Pretty Things, you've touched on a lot.
Yeah.
But maybe for the sake of the audience, let's kind of also narrow it down. So, essentially what you're saying is the dirty refers to all the bad stuff that happening here in London. And then the pretty is basically linked to the glamorization.
The cleaning up.
Yeah, the glamour.
The glamour, the utopia.
Yes, basically the good PR that London has.
Yes.
And in the theme, obviously, we have to be the heart, the organ harvesting that is taking place, which has been reduced to just a thing, like such a pivotal,
For exchange. Yes.
has been narrowed down to just a thing.
Yeah.
But one thing that I want us to now get deep into is the works of Emily Davidson, who is a scholar. But she's the one who then kind of gives us some reference as to how we can see this move from the standpoint of maybe globalization, the body, the borders, and all these other things. So she makes us understand the book, the movie, a lot better. I've read a lot of books this year, so it's a bit, difficult for me to come to terms that I've actually had to watch a movie. So yeah, my mind is really filled with a lot of books. But I think that now that I've spoken about the reference points that I want us to touch on, what could you say is very important in as far as Emily Davidson is concerned as a scholar?
Emily Davidson looks more on the commodification of the body. And I really love how she also dissects the idea of prostitution and how she mentions how Juliet's commodification is quite different to Sene's commodification, in a sense that Juliet does it for economic reasons, right? For money, for monetary reasons. Where Sene, it's because she's either forced to because she needs to get a passport or the correct documentation because she's an immigrant. So, however, I would like to attest that with that being said, the commodification of both bodies is literally degraded by the other gender, which is the male gaze. Both bodies are seen as double oppressed bodies. Yes. So that's what Emily Davis says about the commodification of bodies, of female bodies within the film.
And to add on to that, I think what was really important for me was the fact that Emily Davidson also makes it clear that the film industry is a form of transport or a mode of transport that is able to basically show the world exactly what immigrants have to go through at the expense of the elites. And basically at the heart of it all is capitalism. And what I've also come to understand is that we cannot have what we glamorize and what we love so much, which is obviously globalization, without capitalism. Because I think the two work hand in hand, and capitalism is basically at the heart of it all. Because why I mention capitalism is because globalization is basically linked to the interaction of people from different worlds. But globalization in the context of the movie is linked with the different relationships that are then fostered because of maybe circumstances and maybe even proximity, because people are in one space, they will obviously form some form of relationship, right? But at the heart of it all is the fact that we see Okwe and Sene being overworked. For instance, Okwe works multiple jobs, and
as a qualified doctor.
Which is
in a foreign country, because he has the wrong documentation. Like there's a lot. It's deep.
And then we have Sene who also does the same. But I want us to focus on the mise en scene right there, because for me the mise en scene is very important, because when you look at the dress code of Okwe, it's very bad. Sene's dress code is also very bad. It's not appealing for someone who's supposed to be in London. Basically, it links or coincides with what the dirty is like, because they are the true definition of the dirty. And you might argue that why am I associating blackness with the dirty? Well, that's what it is in this case, because the global south is associated with dirty because of capitalists who are able to exploit them, exploit their labor for small and change, which is bad in as far as this podcast is concerned, because it's an English podcast. But let's go on, because tell me more about the mise en scene.
With mise en scene, I think of actor performance.
Yeah.
The actor performance. There's a quote that I would like you to take over, that then I would dissect to it, where they ask, the Englishman asks, how come I've never seen you people? And what does Boko say?
We are the ones you don't see. We are the ones you don't see. The ones who suck your cocks.
Very funny. I want to take over with that one. But with that being said, it really, we are the people, we are the ones who don't see. Reminds me of Spivak, Can the Subaltern Speak? As an immigrant, we are the people that you don't see. We are not the relevant one. We are the
underclass.
The underclass, we're the marginalized, and we're not that important. So the actor performance, with Okwe stating that, and also the way he's dressed, he's literally in the lighting.
That's the first time he's clean.
Literally. Yeah. And with that being said, it really intersects with how Can the Subaltern Speak, and actor performance, and it also links to the commodification of the body that Emily speaks of. We are the people that you don't see, we
suck cocks.
So basically, we provide services for you. We don't see, we're just people that just work.
And also, what's really nice, or what's really interesting, is the fact that particular scene kind of also put a lot of things into perspective, because I did touch on exploitation. But what we then have come to understand is that globalization and exploitation are very, very good with one another. And as far as they have a connection, and what I mean by that is that these people are undocumented in London, but they're contributing immensely towards the economic growth of that land, of that place, which is London. And one might argue that without these people, the economic functions of London would be limited, because these people are the backbone. So in as much as they are undocumented, these people are still serving the economy of London, which in my opinion is unfair, which then makes sense, or links with what Orwell then says at the later stages of the film, where he says, we're the ones we don't see. So these people we do not see are the very same people who are exploited by the capitalist elite of the West. And essentially, it's bad and it's sad at the same time, because you also saw the scene where the guys, or the workers, are at the sweatshop, and the sweatshop foreman is the only person who remains when the immigration police, the immigration officers, when they storm in, everyone kind of disperses, they all disappear. That kind of also shows you the unfairness of the system, because these people are not protected, these people are exploited, these people are underpaid. And what I also want us to not even forget, I want you to touch on this a bit more. You slightly did touch on the exploitation that both Juliet and Sene go through, but I want you to go deeper and tell me the significance of that particular scene, or the moments throughout the film where you also kind of felt like these women were being suppressed or even oppressed.
I feel like when I think of with that particular idea, I think of how Sene is constantly required to give out her body, her virginity, for example, in the eyes of Senor One. Her virginity is such a prize. It is such a prize. Compared to Juliet, I don't think he would want Juliet's virginity. I mean, Juliet's body.
Because it's undervalued.
Because it's undervalued according to the system. And that's where globalization comes into play, because when we go through our cell phones, our social media, we see that when you're a woman, you're supposed to be a virgin. Purity culture is a very, very big, important topic, or it's very complex. However, when I think of Sene, I think of that, and I see how her body is constantly required to perform sexual duties. And hence why I was saying that with Juliet and Sene, yes, there is a difference. However, they're both equally suppressed by the male gaze, to satisfy the male body. When Sene was giving oral sex to the sweet shop fellatio. That scene where there's a point where she actually resists. We can see this as a theme of resistance when she bites his private parts. That was very brave of her.
Yeah.
In some place, in some way, somehow, the immigrants do fight back. They do fight back and push away this narrative of being commodified.
I think my favorite instance of resistance, I like the link instance resistance. My favorite instance of resistance has to be when Okwe then decided to finally take a stand, because in as much as he is going through, I think there are two people in my opinion who are going through a form of oppression, but they're not really victims of that oppression. I think the oppression that Okwe kind of suffers from is systematic, and then maybe you find Juliet, who is suffering from the oppression of being maybe a woman. She is, by virtue of being a woman, she is an underclass and she's bound to be exploited, and she's black sexually as well. So I think that the two characters in question are probably the only people who are free. And in a sense, you see Okwe kind of taking the weight and putting it all in his shoulders, where he now embraces it by taking his expertise to actually help these people who have been exploited by the likes of Juan, because I don't think it's fair for people to be paying with their bodies in order to get a passport. That is inhumane and such a brave thing for Okwe to do, to now take matters into his own hands and now come to the point where he now drugs, sedates, and I think that form of responsibility for me was really important, because we rarely find out about these stories, and it would be interesting to see people in the real world taking a stand against these harsh forms of capitalism, because we know that the phones that we own, the minerals and all these other things form part of a finished product, if you understand what I'm saying. So what I mean by the finished product, for example, the cobalt, which is a mineral, is used to make the iPhone. And the people who make these iPhones or who mine these cobalts are Africans, and these people are exposed to harsh, inhumane, and very bad conditions. And I think that this movie kind of also gives us insight on the struggle that the underclass and the oppression experience, which was very important.
Above all, I really am so glad we're able to unpack on the commodification, globalization. There's a lot of topics to unpack on this film. However, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a great talk, and I think that going forward, I would like to have more talks like this. But for me, I am Celani, and this was the Beyond the Borders podcast, and thank you for joining us. I will see you on the next one.